Welcome to the Mind Over Money podcast with Jess and James.
How do you create multiple streams of income? Well, before I even go into the how, I'm going to tell you the why. Here's why. During coronavirus, for example, many people sadly were affected in their businesses and in their jobs because they only had one source of income. Literally one source of income. And pandemic hit, crisis hit, economic crash hits, whatever it might be, and they get wiped out. Now, that in itself should tell you why you should have more than one stream of income. Because if one dries up, you can actually have the other. All right? Now, the key around this is to understand not to overwhelm yourself, okay? It's so easy to get what I call shiny object syndrome and jump on this idea and this thing and that thing. And look, when you, especially when you need money, I'm very grateful that I'm in a position where I don't need money. I want more money. Of course, we want to create more wealth, but I'm not in a position where I need money. So my attachment to opportunities are different. When you're desperate, we've all been there, and I've been there too. When you're desperate and you need money, everything looks good. Absolutely everything looks good. This is why it's one of the things that I don't like about the speaker industry, like the training industry, because it's one of the reasons I got into it. Because when you go to these events at times, you'll find that there's lots of different speakers on stage. And most of the people in the audience, they're going through some pain. Maybe they're going through some financial hardship. Maybe they're going through some challenges. Maybe they're going through some financial cash flow issues, and they're desperate and they're looking for change and they're looking for solutions. And there's nothing wrong with that. The challenge is, though, is that there are certain speakers who get on stage and they take advantage of people because they're desperate. So they make them sound like, come and do my program, come and do my course, and I'll help you make millions over a weekend. And people run and go and buy all these programs, and then they go and buy another and another and another and another. Before you know it, they've bought all of these courses and they haven't implemented anything. And that's because they are getting distracted by shiny object syndrome, purely because they have a human need that is not being met. So they literally, unfortunately, will run around trying to do this. Now, it's not just buying courses that's the issue. It's in life in general. When you need money, you'll get desperate and you'll run around and try and do different things. Or if you're desperate for change, yeah? So the key around creating multiple streams of income is to understand this. It is to stay focused and be disciplined. Don't say yes to everything. Please don't jump on every single idea. Stop getting too excited about this. Like so many people, I have so many people send me, do this and this opportunity and this investment, this and that. And I just switch off from them now because I've got what I want to focus on, and that's it at the moment, okay? It's not to say I'm not open to new ideas. I just find them distractions if I try and look at different things. Many of us have already got gold in front of us, but we're distracting from it and trying to do something else, okay? I want you to take what you've already got and look at how you can monetize that, okay? So how do you now create these multiple streams of income? You know why it's important, because it will dry up if you don't. Yeah, if you only got one source, you get wiped out. How do you do that now? It's identifying what can you do as a main strategy, I branch it into three levels. Okay, you've got your primary, you got your secondary, and you've got your tertiary level income strategies. Okay, what do I mean by that? Your primary strategy is the strategy you use to, make most of your income. Okay? The secondary are the ones that you use to generate you income, but it's not the same as your primary source. Okay? And tertiary is kind of like something that you spend time on, which generates you income, but it's not something that you spend a lot of time on. Okay? Now, you need to work out what these are. Okay? So, for example, I spend a lot of my time, because it's my passion at the moment and it's something that I really enjoy. working on my training companies. So I've got training businesses. Okay, so that I treat at the moment, it's shifted because my strategies and my goals shift all the time. But business-wise, I spend a lot of time on my training companies. Okay, I've got 3 different training companies, but I spend about a majority of my time gets spent on these. Then my secondary strategies are my other smaller businesses. Okay, and then my tertiary strategies are property. Okay, now let me explain how these work and why you should figure out what you want to do to be able to generate multiple streams of income. Okay, they say you should have between 3 to 5 sources of income. I agree with that. I think anything above that is a distraction and you might not make as much as what you could do. For example, you might have 7 streams of income, but you could be making the same money with 5. Okay, hope this is making sense. So I don't want you to get distracted by too many things. But a good place to start if you've only got 1 source of income is 3. Aim for 3, okay? 1 primary, 1 secondary, 1 tertiary, okay? Your primary should be your job or your main business or core business or the one that brings you the most income or attention right now or return, okay? Secondary should be something like, I don't know, another business or a side business if you're working full-time or something or whatever it might be. And tertiary typically are investment strategies such as, property, trading, stocks, shares, investments, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So I want you guys to get good at thinking about how can I create 1 primary, 1 secondary, and 1 tertiary source of income. That's all I want you to focus on at the moment. Don't worry about doing more than 1. Okay. Because you can add additional income streams into those 3 categories. Okay. You should have a primary, you should have a secondary, you should have a tertiary. You can have a few strategies in your secondary, you can have a few strategies in your tertiary. But here's where it gets interesting. You must not spend too much time and you must manage your time effectively when you're running these relative or these relevant different income streams. Okay? So you will all find the winning ratio for you, but here's what ratio I found that works best for me. I spend 50% of my time on my primary. Now, that might not be easy for you if you're working a job, so let me come on to that in a minute. This is my time ratio I'm giving you, not yours. You need to work yours out, okay? I'll give you some guidelines of how to work yours out in a minute. But mine is 50% of my time goes, allocated working time, goes on my primary source of income. 40% of my time goes on my secondary, and 10% of my time goes on my tertiary. That's what works for me. Here's why. Because 50% of my time on my training companies, it gives me a lot of, there's a lot of time involved in that, creating content, meeting with teams, all that kind of stuff. Secondary, the reason why I allocate 40% of my time to secondary is because there's 3 different companies within that secondary, organization there that I spend time on. So I need to split 40% of my time amongst these different projects. And then 10% of my time is through property and investing. Why? Because I have good people around me that source deals, that raise investment, look at the things. I don't really do much work on that. Okay, so I'm good to not spend too much time on it. That's the formula that works for me. I'm not saying it's your formula. Your formula might be 70% primary, 20% secondary, and 10% tertiary. Whatever works for you. But I want you to start thinking it like this, because you might be looking at this going, Jess, hey, but I don't even have a strategy yet. I don't have I've got a primary because I've got a job or I've got a business, but I don't have a secondary and I don't have a tertiary yet. Good. Because now you know how to allocate your time. If you're just starting out, maybe 70%. Start off with 70%. Spend 70% of your time on your main job or business income, primary income. Spend 20% of your time looking for a secondary source, such as affiliate marketing, starting a new business, selling other people's products and getting a commission, and then spend 10% of your time investing in tertiary level. That could, and by the way, if you're only, like all of you hopefully, should have a primary source of income. If you don't have a secondary or tertiary, here's what I want you to do. I want you to spend 70% of your time on your primary, spend 20% of your time researching or starting up or getting involved with a secondary source of income, then spend 10% of your time searching, researching, and looking for how to get into a tertiary level of income. Okay, whether that's looking into how can I get into property, how can I get into investment, all that kind of stuff. And if you can just be disciplined with your time on that, then you will notice some big differences in how you create wealth, in how you create multiple streams of income. But the problem with most people is that they want to have more streams of income, but they're not spending the right time and energy doing it. They're just running like reactively, okay? Oh, I'm going to try this. Oh, I'm going to try that. This opportunity, that opportunity, this. And before you know it, they're just like literally rabbit between the headlights. They're stuck, okay? So I want you to get really super duper focused. If you want to take charge of your financial futures, I know it's Money Monday today, so this is why I'm saying this message. I want you to break it down. Primary, secondary, tertiary, okay? And I want you to find the winning formula that works for you. For, like I told you, for me, 50% primary, 40% secondary, 10% tertiary. This is how I allocate my time. Yours will be different. If you're just starting out, 70, 20, 10 is a great split, okay? And they may fluctuate depending on where you're at and what you want to do, but you got to find a winning formula. I personally can't give that for you. Hopefully, though, this video has given you some direction on how and why you should create multiple streams of income. And secondly, how and why it's so important to allocate your time super effectively across these different income streams, okay?
You've been listening to the Mind Over Money podcast with Jess and James. Don't forget to subscribe and follow on all the channels, links in the show notes. Please also leave a review and visit www.jessandjames.com to find more resources on how to create the life you deserve.